Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and furthermore welcome back to yet another exciting Dungeons & Dragons miniature review. Tonight we're taking a look at the D&D nolzurs Marvelous Miniatures Owlbear, and you can see the owlbear here. This is definitely really cool. I've never seen the owlbear miniature in person before. I've seen a lot of images online and stuff, and I did see the Doric owlbear that came boxed with the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie miniatures. And in fact, that's what a lot of people, when I bought this figure, my close friends thought that I was going to paint this figure up to look like, is Doric's owlbear form from Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Do this. I think you got her.
But nope, I am not going to paint this up to look like the white owlbear from the Dungeons & Dragons movie. Instead, I had a much cooler idea. I wanted to paint this up to look like the great horned owl. Which is my favorite owl species. So you can see the figure in there looking really cool, and then behind is a nice image of the dragon that we've seen on the boxes of all these figures at this point, except instead of being cast in different shades of red or different shades of blue, it is now different shades of gold and yellow. And turning the box around, you can see that same image there with a glamour shot of the owlbear painted, primed and paint ready out of the box. Whiz Kids, Dungeons & Dragons nolzurs Marvelous Miniatures. Expand your collection at whizkids.com/unpainted. And then you have all of the legal stuff, and that pretty much wraps up the packaging on this really cool owlbear miniature. So without further ado, I'm going to take a few days to start slinging some paints, get this one put together. Don't go away, there's more miniature review to be had. Alright, here is the owlbear all painted and put together, of course, in the great horned owl colors, and I think this looks amazing. Probably one of the more realistic paint jobs I've done. Now, I painted a few other miniatures that I think look really nice and super realistic. Point in question, reaching off camera here, we have the Beholder Zombie, which I think looks super realistic. Definitely a nice looking paint job, not particularly the most pleasant looking one, but definitely it looks super duper realistic, or as realistic as I think I'm capable of making, and that looks nice too. Of course, I also have the Flame Drake from the Pathfinder Battles line, which I painted to look like Hook Fang from the How to Train Your Dragon movies, and I think it also looks quite realistic and super well done. So, not every miniature I've ever made looks super realistic, but some of them look particularly better than others, and I think this owlbear here is one of my better painted miniatures. You can even see I made the ground that he's sitting on look really muddy. So, really nice. You can see all of the feathers on top of the head are in a nice gray, and then you have a black and a dark brown for the eyebrow ridges. Then you have like the bright orangey yellow eyes with some black pupils, big sharp jagged looking beak, patterns around the face and around the forearms and belly are looking really cool. I like how that looks. Definitely, again, one of my better painted miniatures. I really love how this thing turned out, and I think the reason it turned out so good is I took time on this one. This wasn't something I just wanted to get done in a day. Like, this took me several days to get done. I took my time making sure to make it look the best it could look within my abilities, and I think it paid off quite nicely. I love how this owlbear looks, and it's a pretty medium-sized monster figure. Nothing huge, but I think I did a fantastic job, and even the figure itself looks amazing. For my first owlbear miniature, I think it looks awesome, and I love the paint job I went with it. You know, I was thinking of just painting it a regular brown, or, you know, just something generic, right? And I'm glad I went with the influence of the great horned owl, which is my favorite owl species for this one. I think it lent itself nicely to an owlbear, which is already part owl. But I guess we'll go into a proper comparison. First up for comparison, we have the Dungeons & Dragons owlbear next to the Dungeons & Dragons sea lion. Here is the Dungeons & Dragons owlbear next to a Dungeons & Dragons giant lizard, a Dungeons & Dragons crocodile, a Dungeons & Dragons spider, a deep cuts giant frog, and a deep cuts boar. And finally, we have the owlbear next to some player pieces. We have Topaz, who is a turtle folk. We have Chomper, who is a lizard folk. We have Coiler, who is a serpent folk. And we have Alice, who is a human witch. I absolutely love this owlbear figure. I love how great it turned out with the great horned owl design and inspiration behind it. I think it made it look awesome, and this isn't something new. Like, I've seen a lot of official Dungeons & Dragons artwork that has owlbears looking exactly like this, looking like they have that great horned owl inspiration, as owlbears can look like various owls. So why not a great horned owl? And so this is definitely one of my favorite miniatures I've ever painted, and I think it looks amazing. Definitely not the best it could be. I'm sure somebody else could do a way better job at bringing this to life, but this is the best I could do with my ability, and I'm extremely happy with how this turned out. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Do take care. Have a great night, and I'll see you in the next video.